So welcome everyone. Please put your name in the chat and organization you're with or town that you live in, so we can get a record of who all's here, and we'll start in just a couple minutes.
So how many inches of snow are you going to get in your part of the world, Becky?
I saw a prediction probably 6 to 10 maybe, or more, who knows. Not counting on it.
Check the weather report here in Tampa, and we're not expecting snow.
I forget. That can be predicted, yes.
Boring.
It is cold, though. Note, I'm wearing a winter vest and a turtle.
Not as cold. It was 16 here this morning. So.
Oh, okay. Right.
Tampa's great. I was there in November for GSA. It was great.
If you're just joining, please put your name and organization in the chat, town where you're from. Yep, 29. I guess we can go ahead and get started. So goals for the meeting today. This is the first meeting of the Age-Friendly Pioneer Valley initiative in a while. We sort of were off this fall, had a hiatus in funding over the summer. So great to see everyone again and have this meeting and have our invited guests. So today I'm going to do an overview of the Age-Friendly Pioneer Valley initiative and some of the work we're doing now with communities and also at the regional level. Then we'll hear from Caitlin Coyle from the UMass Gerontology Institute on the Elder Index and assistance that they can provide for age-friendly community planning. We'll hear from Patty Sullivan on the MCOA's Guide on Dementia-Friendly Infrastructure. And then there'll be, we'll hear from Colleen Tully of UMass Amherst on some design work she's doing on housing for older adults and an opportunity to participate in development of flexible design. Also opportunities for technical assistance and funding, and to join the Age-Friendly Pioneer Valley Advisory Committee. So again, this is the overview. I'll talk about current work in communities, including local assessments and action plans, adding age-friendly elements to comprehensive plans. Some work we're doing in Holyoke to engage the Spanish-speaking population, and regional work, and again, guest speakers next. And then we'll have about a half hour at the end to have questions and a roundtable discussion and some brainstorming on regional work going forward. Again, if you're just joining, please put your name and organization in the chat. So the Age-Friendly Pioneer Valley Initiative started in 2020 with funds from the Tufts Health Plan Foundation, and these maps sort of show our progress in terms of community designation in our region. When we started, the hill towns were designated and had developed their own action plan. West Springfield and Springfield had developed action plans and submitted them to ARP. So those are the red hearts. The purple stars are communities that were dementia friendly. When we started, I believe some of these, I'm not sure about Holland actually. So in 2024, the map on the right shows a number of communities have submitted reports to ARP, again, the red hearts. Blue hearts are communities we're working with now, so Huntington, Hatfield, Holyoke, Longmeadow and East Longmeadow. And then the green hearts are communities that have expressed interest in doing some work going forward. And for those of you new to this meeting or this group, the age-friendly process for designation with AARP is basically a community engagement process. So you establish a way to engage older adults in all stages of the process. So planning a community needs assessment through listening sessions and surveys. And then we develop an action plan based on those results and submit it to AARP for review. And at that point, if you're getting technical assistance from PPPC, we step back and you take the plan going forward. So you have a committee in place to implement actions in the action plan, and then you're supposed to share solutions and successes with AARP. For dementia-friendly designation, slightly different process. You submit, once the report is completed, that can be submitted to Mass Council on Aging along with this dementia-friendly pledge. And so that really establishes that an action plan is in place, as well as a committee to implement progress. We've been using these 9 domains of an age and dementia-friendly community as a model for looking at the community assessment. We touch on every area in each report. Some communities have chosen to focus in on just a few areas. And so the action plan may reflect just the priorities that the communities decided on. So some of the current work we're doing is we're working with East Longmeadow and Huntington to develop local assessments and action plans through community compact funds. It's the Community Compact Best Practices program. And so if your community is not currently working on a best practice, that's funding that is available through your town administrator. And you can contact me if you want more information on that. Wilbraham is currently doing their own work on a dementia-friendly initiative, and we're going to be speaking with them about exploring age-friendly designation as well. And we do have funding available to provide technical assistance to other communities. So, and that will involve this whole process of engagement. So surveys, listening sessions, and reporting. We're also working with a number of communities that are in the comprehensive planning process, so, or have recently completed. Southwick completed their comprehensive plan. We held a listening session for older adults and incorporated some survey questions. And I know there's been a change in leadership there, so we need to get back together with them to do the designation process. Longmeadow, we developed a healthy aging chapter of their long-range comprehensive plan and an action plan to submit to AARP. They were already dementia-friendly before we started. Hatfield, we're working on a health and social environment chapter for the comprehensive plan, also doing regulatory review, and we've recently developed an action plan to submit to AARP. They are in the process of really building out an action plan to do dementia-friendly designation as well. And then Williamsburg will be doing a listening session for older adults to include in the community's vision for their long-range plan. Some different work we're doing is with Holyoke. We're doing a project called Vivir con Vitalidad, and it's engaging the Spanish-speaking population in a number of listening sessions and working in partnership with Latinx serving community-based organizations. So each listening session will incorporate food and a fun activity. This is really to engage the older Spanish-speaking population so that they know about the services at the senior center. And also gather input about the type of programs and services they'd like to see at the senior center. We'll do an outreach and marketing plan and really try to get the word out to build that population, how they're using the senior center, since Holyoke is over 50% Latinx population. And then we've recently completed a senior housing plan for Ware through DLTA funds. And that there was already a committee in place from their age-friendly efforts. So we worked with that committee to oversee the development of the housing plan. We're still working on regional designation, assessment, and action plan, and we'll be building out this advisory committee to help us review draft chapters of that plan this spring. And also in other work I'm doing is the Hamden County Health Improvement Plan update, looking at ways to incorporate the needs of older adults in planning for health for Hamden County. So going forward, probably be meeting monthly, either with an advisory committee or having regional meetings, another regional meeting in April and in June or July. So please weigh in if you have any topics or speaker suggestions for some of these regional meetings. And then once we have an advisory committee in place, we'll meet with them to develop this regional assessment and action plan. And again, please contact me if you do want assistance with doing a community assessment and action plan. And I'd be happy to help and talk that over with you. So that's my overview. So I guess next I'd like to invite Caitlin Coyle from UMass Gerontology Institute. And you do have the ability to share your screen.
Thanks, Becky. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for including me. I will share my screen. All right, so I'm Caitlin Coyle. I direct a research center at UMass Boston. It's called the Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging. We are one of 4 centers within the Gerontology Institute at UMass. And we have been around since 2012, so a little over 10 years, and really focused on conducting applied research around aging and healthy aging in community and all of the aspects of that experience. I wanted to start by just talking a little bit about our sort of approach to the work, and then I'll dig into some specifics about the kinds of things that we do. So our mission is in part as a state university is service to the Commonwealth, but we, as I said, sort of take this applied approach to research. And we also really think about our work as being community engaged. So everything we do involves community partners. It includes older residents. And it's really sort of how we think about all of this work. We bring sort of the research expertise and sort of some content area expertise, but we do nothing without the partners in the communities in which we work. And as I said, sort of our ultimate goal is healthy aging in the community, and some of the areas that we focus on, particularly that I'll be talking about this morning, are issues of financial security, issues of aging equity, social health, senior center innovation, age-friendly, age and dementia-friendly communities, and we also are a resource for demographic information as needed. So the other sort of core piece of our work that I wanted to highlight is student training. And so in addition to the community partners that I mentioned before, we also employ undergraduate and graduate students in our work. They assist with a lot of our survey data entry. They take notes at community forums or focus groups. And it's a really awesome sort of aspect of the work, frankly, for both myself, but also for the communities that we work in, to have the opportunity to collaborate with students and be part of their experience. So just to kind of dig in to some of the specifics, as I mentioned, demographic resources. So we generate community profiles using mostly American Community Survey data. So right now we're looking at the 2018 to 2022 5-year estimates, where we generate based on various parameters, whether it's older adults or the whole community, or comparing older adults to middle-aged adults, et cetera. We generate community profiles for communities and organizations around the state. And we also do things as requested. So if someone's interested in wanting to know, so this is an example of living arrangements of Chicopee residents age 65 and older. So seeing that 39% of older adults in Chicopee live alone, and 2% live in group quarters, signaling sort of the nursing home or institutionalized populations. We provide data like this at the community level for the whole state of Massachusetts as requested. So that's just something that we can dig into if you have a particular question or something that you'd like to understand a little bit more about. Financial security, we do work on older workers. So for example, developing and evaluating a remote training program for older workers to apply and to work in remote jobs. We also do some work around property tax relief programs and understanding how to expand the accessibility of those programs to older residents. And then the Elder Index, which is something I'll spend a little bit of time talking about, is something that our center at the leadership of Dr. Jan Muchler develops, which is a cost of living measure. It measures the income of older people based on their daily living expenses. It can be folks who are living in the community. So we calculate this based on a set of core sort of costs, including food, transportation, health, and housing. We do this for every county in the entire United States. You can access this information through the website elderindex.org, and I'm just showing you some examples of what you can access through that website. So this is for folks in Hampden. So you're looking at Hampden County and Hampshire County. This is monthly expenses for people who are renting their home. They are living alone or single and are in good health. So those are the parameters you can sort of search by. You can look at renters versus owners. You can look at people who own with a mortgage or without a mortgage. You can look at people who are coupled. You can look at people who are in poor health. You can sort of play around with these and you'll see the change in the value of their monthly expenses. But this, just to give you an example, is single renters in good health, comparing Hampden County and Hampshire County. And you see, not surprising to many of us on this call probably, that housing is driving a significant portion of their monthly costs. That's the green bar that you see there is housing. And again, this is bare bones, sort of, it doesn't include, any extras. It's really sort of health, transportation, food, and housing. Another example of that is homeowners. This is homeowners with a mortgage. So we're still looking at singles and we're still looking at people in good health. You can see that this is the values are higher, significantly higher for people who own a home and still have a mortgage, in terms of their housing costs being a significant portion of their monthly expenses. And again, we can compare these counties and communities across Massachusetts, but also across the country as well. So in terms of aging equity, just talking a little bit about some of the work that we're doing, we have at UMass these 4 institutes that are listed here on the slide that focus on particular ethnic populations, and we have been collaborating with them for a couple of years, developing sort of a definition of aging equity and really thinking about specifically outreach and information to diverse populations of older adults, to really understand, this idea that age and dementia friendly work is great, but it's only as great as the people who know about it. And so really thinking about how do we develop ways for communities to get that information about age and dementia friendly out into the community in a way that's received. So not just about how do we get it out, but how do we get it out in ways that people are actually open to hearing about and resonate with. And so some of the projects we've been doing in Boston, and also a broader statewide project around developing culturally responsive outreach training for aging service providers. So that's some ongoing work that we have. I mentioned social health. So currently am one of the directors of a statewide task force that's called the Task Force to End Loneliness and Build Community. And this is a statewide group that has been meeting since before the pandemic. And we really focus on creating space for communities and organizations to come together to talk about the issues of loneliness and isolation, and how their work is addressing those issues, maybe directly, maybe indirectly, to give them some ideas about how they can continue this work and to be more innovative in it. And so we've done things over the years like helping communities install chat benches, convene something called Conversations Massachusetts, which is really pop-up conversation tables that happen around the community, and then also activating the built environment to become more socially, sort of set up more for social interaction. So the example in the photo that you see here is an installation that was done in Chinatown. It's called the Dancing Dragon. And essentially it's sort of both an art installation, and also you see those are swings adult swings where people can sit and chat. And so the idea is that it's activating an existing green space to invite social connection. And so this is an area that we also are continuing to help communities develop ideas for. I mentioned Senior Center Innovation. We maintain a database of all councils on aging in Massachusetts regarding the scope of their work and their sort of staff and financial capacity. We also have worked with more than 75 communities individually, helping them conduct community and needs assessments since 2012. And some of that has been very specific to age and dementia friendly, and some of it has been not. Some of it has been about strategic planning. Some of it has been about collaborations across departments, about building and sort of resource infrastructure. Might be specific to transportation or social isolation, for example. But we conduct these projects with individual communities. We, as again, sort of take this very tailored, community engaged approach. Not one of these communities is sort of doing the same exact thing. We have a sort of set of survey processes that allow us to mail surveys to older residents, and we get very strong response rates in these communities as a result of that investment. And we also provide recommendations and support with strategic planning for senior centers or communities who are interested in thinking about how their municipal processes can be adapted or improved to meet the needs of an aging population. And so some communities out sort of in your area, Belchertown, East Hampton, we did before the pandemic, and then South County, which I know is not in your county, but out in that general area in 2021. And we continue to do this work. Again, sometimes it's age and dementia friendly, sometimes it's about something totally different. It's really about us engaging the older adult population and understanding what are their needs and preferences, and then translating that into recommendations and strategies for action moving forward. So really, I think about it as it is age and dementia friendly in the spirit of age and dementia friendly, even if it's not sort of labeled as such. Of those 75 communities, about 20 of them have been specifically targeted to age and dementia friendly, where we support action planning processes, needs assessments, and also provide technical assistance around implementation and evaluation. So this is a variation, one of many variations on this sort of framework, talking about the domains and really about how the goal of this work is to help people sort of stay independent, stay social, stay mobile, stay included, stay engaged, stay safe, etc. So with that, I will end and say thank you again for listening, and also just to be happy to hear from all of you and learn more about the work that's going on in Western Mass. And I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. If anyone has any questions or wants to dig in deeper to any of these particular issues, happy to do that offline at another time.
Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, I think we'll move right on to Patty, and we'll have time at the end for questions. Patty, you ready?
Good morning, everybody. It's always hard to follow Caitlin. They're doing really terrific work. And I have to say that as a relatively new resident or newcomer to Massachusetts, I've only been here for about 10 years now. I still remain struck at how incredibly fortunate we are to have the Gerontology Institute and the work that Caitlin and her partners do. I cannot imagine, and I talk to my friends across the country who do this work, they occasionally will tell me to shut up because we have so many resources here in Massachusetts, and Caitlin is a really, really good example. I mean, imagine trying to do this work without this kind of analysis and data and support behind us. And it's just amazing. And, you know, Becky's another example. Regional planners don't do this in other parts of the world. And, you know, to have Becky raising money to support your work and to provide TA is really terrific. So we are spoiled. So I'm going to share my screen and jump in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patty Sullivan, and I am looking for my PowerPoint, which doesn't seem to be here. So I am the director of the Massachusetts, how do I say, uh, Dementia Friendly Massachusetts program. It is a program that has been around for about 5 years or 6 years now, we're going on. And it is a program that initially focused just on dementia friendly, but it soon became very, very evident that this work was going to be blending with age friendly. Because the reality is, if you do age friendly and you don't do dementia friendly, you're missing out on the older adults, and there are many of them that have dementia. And if you just do age friendly, you miss out on the needs of people who use dementia. So, dementia is increasing, including Alzheimer's. We see it all over the country. And, the number that strikes people the most when I say it is that according to the Alzheimer's Association, 1 in 8 people over the age of 65 have some form of dementia. 1 in 8. And so when people say to me, oh, I don't want to do dementia, I say, are you going to leave out 1 in 8 people in your community? And the answer is no. And so it's just very important to me to remind people of that. And once I start to talk about the power of including and blending the two initiatives, it makes it much easier. So this initiative is all across the Commonwealth. We have 116 communities that are only dementia friendly. We have 114 that are age friendly. We have 67 that are both. And so with all of these put together, we're in 46% of the communities in Massachusetts. That's a big number. And we're working with individual communities, small groups of communities, regional groups, all sorts of people come to us. ASAPs now are starting to talk more about this. So it is really exciting to see this take off. So what do we do when we're making a community dementia friendly? And that is, we raise awareness, we educate, and we help you make changes to your environment. And that is the one that people say, all right, we got raise awareness, we got educate. How do we make changes to our environment? And so, ta-da, we now have a guide that was produced with Dementia Friendly Massachusetts, the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, the Boston Society of Architects, under the auspices of the State Alzheimer's and Related Dementias Committee that is chaired by the Secretary. And so James Fuccione and I co-chair this work, and it took us about a year of working with architects to really begin, architects, regional planners. We've had all sorts of people sort of come in and out. We have housing real estate experts. We've had emergency management people. We've had all sorts of people depending on the topic that we're working on as we help people become more dementia friendly. The ultimate charge of this group is for us to incorporate into as many statewide procurements the requirement that people think about age and dementia friendly infrastructure in anything that they do. So you will notice, for example, that in the respite grant, $4.5 million respite grant RFP that was put out this week, there's a section that says if you're going to apply, you have to look at this guide and consider this. So our goal is to get it as many places as possible. So as we all know, dementia is not a normal part of aging, right? There's a difference between me having normal cognitive in aging related impairments and where are my keys? Where are my glasses? Where's my cell phone? All the normal things that we do. But, dementia becomes an issue when you can't function in your daily life. And when you add that to the normal underlying conditions that people have, it really is important for us to think about infrastructure. So according to my architecture friends, the physical environment is supposed to support your cognition, compensate for your diminishing abilities, promote safety, make sure you're not struggling, minimize distractions, and give joy, which doesn't always happen. But the goal of making it easier for everybody in an environment, regardless of your age, is always important. So in September of 2022, after much review and considerations, we produced this guide. So it's an AFDF design for physical infrastructure. Again, it was written by a bunch of people, cross connections, and it was one of those meetings that every time I went into it, I felt like an idiot because I had to ask so many questions. Like, what does that word mean? Or why does the light have to, because I just didn't understand architecture. And I didn't understand regional transportation planning because we had to talk about infrastructure in transportation or infrastructure in libraries. So, you talk about these things any place you go. So what does age and dementia-friendly physical infrastructure look like? It looks like things that are familiar, right? If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? They should be legible. I'm going to give you some examples, pro and con, of these things that you see in daily life. But legible for somebody living with dementia is eye level, something with contrast. My favorite are restroom signs on the Cape that are all cutesy, mermaid, merman with shells around, and you can't figure out what it means. It should be distinctive, right? Equaling form and function. It should be accessible, right? Everybody should be able to use it. It should be comfortable, for God's sakes. And, Caitlin doesn't want to have a bunch of people sitting on a bench trying to chat when you got to get up because it's too uncomfortable, or because you won't sit down because you can't get up because there are no handrails on the benches. It's safe. Safety is a big issue. And on the dementia side of physical infrastructure, we really talk a lot about safety, about signage, and wayfinding, because that's really the keys. But all of it's important. So I will not bore you with my complete collection of things you shouldn't do. Instead, I'm going to end up the week on a positive note. So here are a couple of things. So benches. Every community buys benches. Every, libraries buy them. Transportation buys them. All sorts of people buy them. So why not just buy the right ones, right? The rule is you don't sit down in something you can't get out of. And you do that at any age. And so making sure you buy the bench with arms. And I was laughing because I was in Shrewsbury not too long ago, and I was talking about this. And without even telling the COA, the town administrator went and ordered the arms that can be refitted because they bought the wrong benches. So, it's not hard. It's not expensive. I'm not asking you to do something outrageous. I'm just asking you, when you spend the money, spend it the right way. This is a really good example of a lovely, lovely piece of artwork. I'd never sit on it. First of all, it looks cold. It looks uncomfortable. I think if I put my purse down, it might fall in between. I can't get up. So it's a lovely piece of artwork, but don't expect people to sit on it. You need a bench next to it so people can look at it. Adding simple things in trails as handrails that make it easier for older adults to use them. Same thing on a trail like this at the bottom. The walk is shaded. I realize in this picture it's hard to see, but on the edges of the walk, the bricks change color so people can see that they're getting towards the edge and move towards the center. Restroom signs are my particular pet peeve. There's just no reason why we can't get this right. Simple, articulate. One of my favorite examples, much to their dismay, is the American Repertory Theater in Cambridge has at their restrooms, the most confusing network of signs. So you have 250 people all going downstairs to go to the bathroom, all of whom have had something to drink. And we all get down there, and there are 10 signs, all of them say all gender. So then you've got to figure out, it's an all gender restroom, and men and women can go in there, and then I have to decide which one I want to go in based on the pictures. So do I want to be able to wash my hands, use a toilet, or use a urinal? And then the next one may say urinals, toilets with stalls, sinks. And then the next one's, and so we all stand there staring at the bathroom signs and then run for the women's sign and the men's sign, which is single use at the end of the corridors. So it totally defeats the purpose. This is an extreme example, but particularly now with the incorporation of gender neutral bathrooms, we just have to make it clear what it is, not only for people living with dementia, but pretty much for everybody. So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to one more thing. This is what's called sign pollution. You see this in a lot of places. Whenever I ask people, what would they do when they get to this sign? They say, I would go like this and drive through, because God knows what you're supposed to do at a sign like this. So it's not helpful. It doesn't provide information. All it does is slow down traffic and confuse people. Again, a safety issue. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of this guide and just give you some examples that you might see in your community. Some of this is very common sense, but sometimes when you're in the middle of a design process, you get excited about the design side and you forget sometimes about the common sense. So we always look for buildings, primary entrance at the ground level. You know, everybody should be able to get in. Sign it's at eye level entrance. You got to have an exit sign up there, but people with dementia don't look up. They look straight ahead. So contrasting color, you know, maybe even a sign somewhere that says that it's the X Senior Center. And I go to senior centers all the time and I say to them, it's confusing. Why don't you just paint the door red? So people know, go in the red door. No confusion about where the entrance is. This is a disastrous building, and many will recognize this is Boston City Hall. It has absolutely none of the things that we want to see in a building. This is a public building, and you cannot navigate it. And the ultimate is that when the COA director, or she is the commissioner in Boston, Emily Shea, had an interview with Mayor Menino, she could not figure out how to get into the building and had to call and ask because she couldn't figure out which door to go in to get where she needed to go. So a pretty good example of a bad example. Entryways should be clear. Obviously, we want the buttons on the doors. We know all about curb cuts, flooring, and pathways. You know, flooring needs to be neutral. You want wide and flat surfaces without a lot of things to get around, to navigate around. And, you know, one of the things that I often see in senior centers is I walk in and there's so much stuff on the walls trying to give me information, I find it confusing. And so that's a hard thing because you're trying to share information all the time. Seating, again, whether it's inside or outside, look like a chair, able to get out of. Wayfinding, I'm looking for the stairs. That's pretty clear what it is. And it's at eye level. Same thing. Where's the trash? The use of artwork or color is also helpful. If you want to, you could put 2 orange chairs out in front of your senior center entrance, and then eventually people would learn, I know I go in where the orange chairs are. Or maybe when I'm trying to navigate a park, I know I'm supposed to turn at the red bench. Or I'm sure nobody else has ever had this happen, but I get confused when I'm in parking garages. And so I try to remember what is in front of me when the doors open. And so in a lot of places, they use very distinctive artwork. So I can remember that I'm in a doctor's office. I know I've got to get off on the 3rd floor, and I'm going to see the picture with poppies when I get out. Saves me from at least the embarrassment of having to call the guy at Logan Airport to drive me around till we find my car. So couple other of examples that we see. And, all of this can be done in renovation. And I just don't believe that people never, ever paint or change their carpeting. So I remind folks, having contrast around a toilet makes a big difference. Just paint the walls a different color and put a different seat on your toilet. Also there are ways to hide doorways if you want. This is another good example of a parkway. You want things that are distinctive so people know what they are. Here are other good examples. You want good lighting for people to see. This is an example of the police station in Melrose. Here's an entrance to a senior center. It's open. You can see what's going on. There's not a lot of clutter. Here again, you always want to avoid glossy floors. I was talking to a director not too long ago who has to move into, I think it's an old high school while they're doing some renovation work. And she said they're going to redo the floors. And I said, just make sure they're not shiny. And that was very easy for them. Again, didn't cost more, but it made a difference. Controlling glare. Somebody with dementia walking down this hallway is going to try to walk around the light because they're not sure what it is. And the dark looks like a hole. So guess what? They don't walk down the hallway. Or if they do, they try to walk around in a weird way, making them a fall risk. Just not worth it. And then this last picture is from the Goodenow Library that realized some of its rooms were just too long. So they've installed ceiling pads that are soundproof. Then also in some senior centers, I've encouraged people to put felt on the underside of the chairs if they do not fold, and felt on the underside of the tables. A thick layer of felt helps absorb the sound. So all these fun things I learned from architects. So I always show this slide just for the fun of it. This is building in, I think it's in LA or in Las Vegas. And it is actually a building where people go for brain health treatments. So can you imagine walking into this space? This is designed by some famous architect who clearly never asked the purpose of the building or didn't care. But when I look at this picture, I think City Hall is bad, but maybe this is even worse. So, but it's just all kind of crazy. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if anybody has any questions. No questions.
We'll also have time for more questions and discussion, but let me see. Oh, go ahead. Did someone?
How do I get a copy of the guides? Is it just downloaded or will you mail it to us? I'm kind of disappointed it didn't get mailed to all of us.
It didn't get mailed to you, but I'm going to give it to Becky, and maybe she can mail you one, or we'll give you send you the downloaded version. It's one of the. I'm just going to mention a couple things. One of the sort of confusing part of the guide, and we've taken this guide to the director of senior housing. We're right in the process of modifying the affordable housing guidelines that are used, literally line by line. We are modifying the guides that are used for emergency management for shelters. We are hoping to work with libraries and are working with the chairs of the Elder Affairs Committee about incorporating this language into more of the statute. But in every place, people say to me, "Oh, no problem. We have universal design." But there is a big difference. Universal design is universal design. It does not compensate for cognition, right? And people, older adults, whether it's normal aging or dementia-related cognitive impairment, it's more than just universal design. And yes, we are connecting with the housing authorities. We're sort of running out of time on this work, but we're going to keep pushing. And, housing is a really hot topic right now because of the governor. And so we are trying to get our stuff incorporated into that work as well. But I also see a couple of libraries on this call. And I just wanted to say that I have been, for some reason, at the end of the year, I always spend lots of time at libraries talking about libraries and age and dementia friendly work. And I have a full presentation I'm happy to do for you and your staff. And I also welcome any of the librarians to come talk to me at the Mass Library Association that will happen in a couple of months. So,
Thanks,
but
Patty.
yes, we'll share it.
Yeah, I think I put the link, but I'm not sure that one will work. So it's
Okay.
a little funny, but if you have a
All
better
right.
link.
I will put the link in.
So I'm going to move on to Colleen Tully, who is a graduate student at UMass Boston and or UMass Amherst, sorry. And Colleen reached out to me recently because she was doing a project on housing design for older adults. And so I thought it was really exciting, and she's going to share a little of her work and also an opportunity to join a focus group to sort of build more information about what folks are looking for. So, Colleen, you all ready?
Yes, thanks so much. Let me just share my screen. Can you see the presentation with the image on the left? Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for having me. And I think that this project kind of dovetails really nicely off of all the information that Patty just shared with us. So I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Colleen. I'm a grad student at UMass Amherst, where I'm completing degrees in architecture and design. And I'm also a sustainability researcher for UMass's campus planning department. So I'm going to present, as Becky said, a high-level overview of an academic project that I've been working on for about a year now. And its focus is on developing housing for aging in place, in addition to kind of where this housing would sit, which would be an intergenerational residential community that tries to bridge gaps in access to in-home long-term care. So as you are all well aware, we live in an aging society, and studies project that within 35 years, a quarter of Americans will be 65 and older. And we also know that 70% of individuals 65 and older will likely require long-term care at some point in their lives. And when I talk about long-term care here, I'm including both activities of daily living, such as bathing and eating, in addition to instrumental activities of daily living, such as housework. So in the US, we're all very familiar with 3 standard models for long-term care. Of course, there are models outside of this, but for the most part, these 3 buckets we're all very familiar with: the nursing home, the assisted living facility, and in-home care. And the overwhelming majority of people who receive long-term care assistance are receiving that care in their home or in the home of a loved one versus a nursing home or an assisted living facility. And of course, this is for a number of reasons. A recent study by AARP found that 90% of individuals want to age in place. So we know that going into a nursing home or an assisted living facility is not necessarily seen as a desirable option for most people. And nursing homes and assisted living facilities are also more cost prohibitive in many cases than in-home care. And while in-home long-term care is also cost prohibitive in many ways, its financial burden is often offset through the stitching together of unpaid care from familial support networks. In fact, most in-home care is provided unpaid by family members. 1 in 5 adults is providing unpaid care, with up to 26% of those caregivers caring for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, and 60% providing this care while simultaneously working 40+ hours a week. So with that said, my research identifies the home as the epicenter for long-term care in America. But our housing stock is completely unprepared to address the needs of an aging population and the needs of their caregivers. A 2019 report by the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard found that only 0.15% of US housing meets wheelchair accessibility standards, and under 4% of housing is considered livable by people with moderate mobility difficulties. Which is really shocking. And in the US, we're very conservative, meaning we really don't like to change how we design our homes, especially the interior layouts of our homes. There's a big resistance to adopt housing typologies that meet the needs of the population due to stigmatization that comes along with the adoption for renovations for aging in place, as well as concerns of cost, concerns about the devaluation of property, and just navigating the renovation itself, which can be a huge job in and of itself. So architects play a really big role in this conversation, and recognizing the reality of the home as the nexus of care and bringing this knowledge to the forefront of residential design, I think, can positively affect the well-being of caregivers and can positively affect the well-being of those receiving care. And so my hope is that we can continue to design communities that make caretaking visible and function as caretaking networks, all of which have the potential to offset the physical, emotional, and monetary costs of long-term care. So in conclusion, based off of this research that I've been conducting, I'm in the process of designing 2 things: private residential homes and a master plan of a mid-sized intergenerational community. And I've identified 4 features that I feel are necessary to incorporate into this design strategy. So the first, as I've been talking about, I really want to reimagine the way that we design our houses. So the goal of our homes, I believe, should meet the needs of long-term care activities. So I've done a number of studies analyzing accessibility and caretaking activities, which I'm showing a little bit of here. So if anyone has ever cared for a loved one at home, you may know, for example, the importance of something really seemingly simple, such as the proximity of the sink to the bed, for example. So how can we rethink our plumbing placement or our overall layouts of our houses to be more conducive to these activities? You know, it's a huge responsibility caretaking for a loved one. It's a lot of work. So our houses should really adapt to this rather than work against us. We need to balance privacy and safety in these designs. And I think this can be done in a beautiful and functional, simple way that could support the needs of all people, not just the older members of our society. Secondly, I think that these homes should be able to transition spatially. So what I mean by that is that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about increasing multi-generational homes and accessory dwelling units. So being able to provide homes that have much smaller footprints as people's needs change over time. So let's say you own a larger house as you have, you know, when you have children, perhaps you want to move into the first floor of your home. What happens to the remaining part of your house? Could you rent that out? Could that somehow be cordoned off from your other home environment, or could a caretaker move in? So how can our homes kind of transition as our needs or income change over time? Third, I'm working on the development of these homes in the broader context of a mid-sized master plan for a residential community. And this community is theoretically located in Amherst. The design is based loosely off of co-housing models. So there's a shared asset of the community being an adult day health center. And I think that the structure of the financial structure of co-housing has the potential to maybe offset some of these long-term care costs. And finally, I want to prioritize the well-being of caregivers. And the co-housing model also may offer potential to provide housing for paid caregivers at a reduced rate in exchange for services through the pooling of community financial resources. So my hope is that this work could be used to inform renovations of existing structures, as well as new housing and neighborhoods that are being built in Massachusetts. So I'm still in the process of collecting data. I'm particularly interested in meeting with focus groups to drill down into some questions that I have, which you can see here. It's a lot of questions, but I welcome anyone here that's interested to chat to please reach out to me. I'll send my information in the chat as well. I'm just looking for feedback, looking for conversation, and any experiences that you may have personally or in your work that you think relate to this. I'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Colleen. That's really exciting work. And maybe once you get, maybe we can set a date for a focus group meeting and put that out to the group and try to get a few people together to help with those questions. So does anyone have any questions for Patty or Caitlin or Colleen or me? And if yes,
I wondered about Colleen. I just recently heard some information about the little house alternative for seniors, 120 square feet. And I know there are some, I live in the hill towns, and so there are some restrictions, you know, because of septic, et cetera, et cetera. But I wondered if you'd done any research into that, and because you didn't necessarily say the your co-housing, but the mid-sized, approximately how many square feet would that be?
Yeah, I am thinking about square footage around 500 square feet to 1,200 square feet for some of these units, and I'm thinking of them as combining. So in this, I think ADUs and the conversation about these smaller footprints and the way that we can put them on pre-existing housing, you know, in the backyards of people's houses is a really wonderful concept that we need to keep pushing forward. And that is something that's very important to this type of design work, that the footprints really need to be smaller. We know there's a big demand for smaller footprints. People don't want to take care of massive houses, but people's needs really change over time. And I think that I would like to try to address people not having to necessarily move out of their home into a smaller unit, but rather stay within their home and just be able to move to a smaller portion of their house and use the rest of their home, so as to not have to give up that asset and purchase new property in a way, if that makes sense. So to answer your question, yes, I'm definitely thinking about that. I think it's really inspiring research. I'm trying to work that into my design development somehow.
Linda?
Yeah, I have a question for Caitlin. In your research, do you have an estimate of what the monthly income of people in Western Massachusetts are living on?
Yeah, yes. I mean, we can look at it in any particular community or the county.
Okay, could you look at Hampshire County?
Sure. If you want to I can connect with you about that.
Okay, okay. What I'm feeling very strongly, I've been working in this field for about 50 years now, and there's some things that are really changing, and aging is being reinvented, and I'm so sorry for the out, and this is my stupid technology here. But anyway, what has been I feel that we really have to do something in an advocacy capacity, because I'm pretty sure what your research is suggesting, like the monthly income of people living alone is 2,476 or something like that. And people aren't reaching that income, that monthly income. So I'm looking at Colleen and her theories, and I'm suggesting that we have to really create a more holistic look at aging, and definitely think about introducing shared living experiences. I mean, just so people can have integrity and live in place. And be able to afford it, and even be able to play, because a lot of people aren't playing. And every time those electric bills go up or the tax bills go up, that does not, it doesn't justify the increase in Social Security, and people are really living in poverty. And I'm just wondering, I would love to talk to you later about that.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely can be a very helpful advocacy tool, and we can also look at it, the expenses versus, for example, the median household income in the county or the average Social Security benefit in the county, to sort of calculate how many people are not making it work. So let's definitely connect about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Any
other question for Colleen is about, I know in some European communities, they're using abandoned malls and reinventing them, which is the perfect scenario for Western Massachusetts in the inclement weather. I know my grandparents had outside housing, in the community, but yet when it snowed, they couldn't go out. They were still isolated, even though they lived in a senior community. And it seems like for Western Mass, that whole conversion of abandoned malls, which we have quite a few, into housing would be a best case scenario. I mean, we have the stores, you could bring in other places into that little place. And anyways, I just thought that European model was quite wonderful. And I wondered if you'd done any research into that as well.
That was actually one of the concepts I had considered for my project. I had been looking at abandoned malls in Western Mass. I was going to try to renovate, this is all conceptual, obviously. I don't have a contract to renovate anything, but I was going to try to design a renovation, because I mean, we need a lot of new housing, but we really have a lot of housing stock that really just needs to be renovated. So working through how we can make renovations possible, and use office buildings and malls, I think are really exciting features, or really exciting approaches. So I had thought about doing that. I ended up not moving in that direction, but I do think it's really exciting work that's being done in that field.
Thanks. James?
Just a quick comment, and Caitlin put in the chat an example of the more positive end. But media being media, the Boston Globe has covered a well-documented sort of battle for the South Shore Mall. And the fact that you may have a property and you may have an opportunity, but it takes local votes and local action to turn that into something. And I think that's the benefit of this group and other local groups like the Age and Dementia Friendly Coalitions, is that you can help advance those opportunities and turn them into something. So when there is an opportunity, it doesn't come up against the big brick wall of local voters not wanting housing for any number of reasons. And we all know those well-documented reasons. So I think that's part of the benefit of this group. And also just a quick plug that the state's major housing bill is coming up for a hearing on January 18th. And they are accepting written comments. And there's plenty of great stuff that's a part of that. Statewide ADUs, accessory dwelling units, inclusionary zoning, home modification, loan program support, all kinds of different things. So If folks are interested, you can take a look at that. I'm happy to send a link for anybody that's interested. So thanks.
Thanks, James. I was going to ask if you had announcements, so thanks for jumping in. I want to move to a little exercise on a Jamboard, and I'm going to share my screen. And if everyone's familiar with the Jamboard, I'll give a little tutorial. So I have 2 pages here. One is opportunities for regional collaboration as we think about this work going forward. And the second page is local planning and implementation, success stories and challenges. And so I've put a link in the chat. If you have the ability to get into the screen, feel free to jump on there either now or after the meeting. And to add a comment, you can double click on a sticky note. So just double click and write what you'd like and then save it. Or if you want to create a new note, you click on this little square and add some comments there. Some things that have sort of come up in the work that I've been doing with communities and that I've seen are talking about dementia awareness. So I know a number of you are certified Dementia Friends champions, and you know, Kat and Crystal from Huntington are going to be doing a Dementia Friends training in Northampton at Linda Manor, because I got a card in the mail. And I know Kathy Service has been to Hatfield and other places to talk about dementia. So that's a great way to sort of share resources and expertise with other communities. And you know, if folks think that's something that we should look at going forward to really do that on a regional level, that's one idea. A regional housing study, you know, what's out there in terms of supported housing and what the needs are for housing for older adults. And great to incorporate Colleen's work in that. Also, I've heard about, you know, maybe an educational campaign to combat ageism, reframe the narrative. So I was hoping everyone could take a couple of minutes and either write on the Jamboard or in the chat, and I will add it to the Jamboard. And let's see. And then for those of you who are working in communities doing this work in communities, you can go to the next page and, you know, just put in any successes you've had in terms of implementation or challenges, and just so we can kind of think about how this work is going, either in the planning process or the implementation process. And if you're more comfortable just speaking out, please unmute and I will add those to the chat, or add these to the Jamboard also. Let's start with the regional. Okay, so we have applying for grants, and I'm just looking for my chat. Kat, you said the information center is at Linda Manor, yes.
I have to clarify, it's an information session, not training, because we're
Okay.
volunteers with the Dementia Friends, and for legal reasons, it needs to be an information session.
Okay, thank you. And again, feel free to jump in. And
Our biggest obstacle is our select board.
in terms of
Getting them
Getting-
on board with certain changes that could be beneficial for the whole. And they're concerned about the deficit of the cost over long-term benefits.
Yes, and a success story I can think of from Huntington was that we did a listening session on transportation and invited District 1 representatives there, and turned out that Huntington has their main roads are state owned, so doing a complete streets program wouldn't necessarily help with those roads, but the state folks turned out they had funding to do projects that would improve accessibility. So after the meeting, they went out, they were measuring sidewalks and crosswalks, and I believe they are planning to do some improvements there with the state funds. So just having them in a room with folks who were saying what the challenges were was I think an instant success from what I could see.
Our other ongoing challenge is getting caretakers support in services, outside support and services up into the hill towns. It's so hard to find people willing to come to help relieve the caregivers and the cost, but mostly it's just availability of anybody coming to the hill towns to provide care and services.
Looking at the regional training primary care workforce. Yes, is Justin still on? Justin, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing at Bay State and if that could be something that could happen regionally?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is my first meeting. My name is Justin Ayala. I work with the Bay State Health Geriatrics Workforce Enhancement Program, which is a 5-year HRSA grant that is ending actually this June, but we're in the process of reapplying. The focus of the grant is to train the primary care and direct care workforce in age and dementia friendly content. And so we are looking for opportunities to sort of enhance those training programs right now with local higher ed institutions and other areas that are providing this education out into the community and with learners. So it's really focused on, HRSA wants us to focus on areas that are rural, underserved, and considered tribal organizations as well. So we're kind of limited in that sense in terms of a geographic reach, I guess. They want us to work with HPSA, health profession shortage areas. So that is kind of a broad overview of what the GWEP award is about. But we are looking to, enhance those age-friendly and dementia-friendly trainings with organizations where that will sort of expand into certain or different areas that we haven't reached yet. So I know yesterday actually I met with Patty. I also met with James, and just kind of thinking about ways that we can expand some of this work across the state and thinking about the next application. So yeah, we're still in the process of thinking about how this can work in terms of the next application process. But happy to answer any questions about it. I can also put the notice of funding opportunity link into the chat for folks to take a look at, and my contact information if you're interested in connecting.
Great. Thanks, Justin. And we're also speaking with a doctor at Bay State who is applying for funding for the GUIDE program for dementia care. And that sort of centers around having a care coordination in the community and working with community-based organizations. So that's also out of Bay State. And I'll have more information on that after next week because they are looking for regional partners. Thanks, Megan. Do you want to, do you have any other announcements, Megan, you want to share?
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. Sure, I'll just mention I put in the chat too, and this has been a great discussion that we're doing. The Alzheimer's Association has a couple upcoming trainings that are specifically for first responders. So if you have any, every town obviously has first responders. So that includes fire, police, and specifically EMS get free educational credits for attending our training through the state of Mass. So it really is beneficial. So you should definitely share this with your any first responders you have, and it tends to be even easier to get kind of, I think, smaller towns on board with trying to attend some of these attend this training. It's all online, so it's all on Zoom, so it's easy to attend. It's only, I think, 2 hours, and that's free and open to any first responders anywhere in Massachusetts, or anywhere. So I can share that, or email me if you want the flyer and the details on that. Anyone can sign up. If you want to attend too, it is open to anyone. You don't have to be a first responder, but it's geared to first responders, specifically around training and dementia. We also have our upcoming free virtual family conference, educational family conference, coming up on March 1st and 2nd. So that's a full 2-day conference, completely free. Anyone can register for that, but it's geared towards family caregivers and also individuals living with dementia themselves, individuals with memory loss, individuals in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So that's going to be a great 2-day conference, March 1st and 2nd. That the Alzheimer's Association is doing. And then you can always just contact us if you want to schedule an educational program or presentation or dementia friendly practices presentation. We're happy to provide that anywhere. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan. Z, do you want to, I have your success story there. Do you want to just say that, unmute and
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity. I too am attending this for the first time, but I wanted to just include a little bit of bragging rights. And the brag is that the Springfield Dementia Friendly Coalition has resurfaced. And we were one of the 3 designations in 2019. And because of the pandemic, because of the loss of one of our founders, we were dormant for a while, but we have resurfaced and we have come back strong and in full force. And we have a number of programs that are upcoming in June. I mean, significant substantial programs that are reaching underrepresented and developed communities. So you can tell the excitement in my voice that we're looking forward to having many, many more success stories. So stay tuned and I'll be happy to share more details as the time arises.
let's see. Great.
Could we have her contact information?
For the Springfield Dementia Friendly Coalition?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'll be happy to put that in the chat room. We have an email, we have a Facebook, we're in the process of a website, so you can tell we are on the move.
That's great. Thank you, Zeke. Yeah, and one of the as I mentioned, we're working on the Hampden County Health Improvement Plan update and incorporating older adults, interests of older adults in that plan. So Justin and Z have been involved recently in that work as well. Okay, so let's see. Any other local folks here who have success stories or challenges in doing this work? Looking at Corinne. Yes, community compacts. That's great. Well, I will continue to share this this link, and feel free to jump in offline. And we will just keep doing the good work. I guess next steps also, does anyone have any suggestions for upcoming meetings, speakers you'd like to see, or topics you'd like to discuss for our next quarterly meeting? Either chime in or we'll put it in the chat. Linda? Oh, you didn't have your hand.
I'd like to see people speak about community advocacy, peer community advocacy. I really feel that this is the new direction for aging. You know, and I personally have had to be a community advocate for about 10 people in the last 2 months. And I think that it's a real strong need out there. It's not only professionals that need to be aware of some of the needs, but let peers help peers in some of the issues. I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was at a social at Northampton Neighbors, and this one woman was telling me that she's been living at this housing project called Hampshire Heights, and for a number of years, like whatever, 20, 30 years. And now she has no family, and she has to move to a elderly housing complex, one of the elderly housing complexes in Northampton. And and she basically said that if she gets accepted for one of the housing complexes that nobody really wants to live in, she has to accept it. And she doesn't have a choice. And I feel people at this age really, and income should not always be the issue about choice. And I feel that this is an unfair regulation. That, you know, she has some elderly housing that she would like to move into, but she doesn't literally want to move into the Salvo home.
I would like to have a pair of questions in your supply of senior citizens.
Did you see that last part, Linda?
I mean, you know, I mean, people should, hold on a minute, please. You know, I think that we need to be advocates for older people, and some of the programs that some of the regulations out there really don't aren't really supportive of the population that we're representing.
Yes, Corinne.
Sorry, I would really like to see us do more and more on housing, because the need for housing for older people is just, the need for housing for everyone is a crisis at this point, but for older people, it's just almost indescribable. And so to have a variety, how to get funding. I was just reading about I forget, I think it was the town of Shirley. There's a lottery for 55 plus affordable housing. It's like, how did you get the funding for that? You know, how do you do this? You know, so more helping us to how to get resources to create more housing, not only just senior housing, but mixed age housing, mixed income housing, all those things. I would really like us to see us do more on that. And the other thing is that all the people who, James, I think were you the one who was talking about the resistance to creating more housing in communities, which is just awful. But everybody loves senior housing. You talk about creating housing, everybody wants to create senior housing. So if we can sort of mobilize seniors to help build more support for creating more housing, and also to kind of broaden the view that we need housing for everyone, I think that would be good. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. And that reminds me, there was a series of really great workshops in the town of South Hadley recently, and I'm going to put in the chat, if I can get my computer to work. There's a link for all the recordings, and it's, you know, all stages of the housing development process. So I highly recommend it. Here we go. And I think part of that started with the age-friendly work we were doing in South Hadley, and really a recognized need for housing, and, you know, what are next steps? How do you build awareness in the community, and how do you get that housing built, was sort of their purpose for doing those workshops. So they have developers and you know, affordable housing advocates, and just a whole range of people speaking. So really great resource, and both the recordings and the slide presentations are on that website. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. It's almost 11:30, so if there aren't any more questions. Oh, Patty, yes.
I just wanted to mention just very quickly 2 things. One is that, you know, MCOA just recently went through, searched through all of the action plans in the state. Every single one of them had housing in the top 3, all of them. So this is a statewide issue, which is why we're paying so much attention to it. Secondly, I wanted to mention, you won't be able to build housing with this, but AARP is about to release its challenge grants. These are small grants, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw something in there around building advocacy around issues. And so on Wednesday of next week, and I put the note in the chat, at the Dementia Friendly monthly meeting, we're going to have Antron Watson from AARP talk about prior challenge grants, what he thinks we might see in the future, or maybe the grants will be out by then. We just don't know. But all of you are welcome to attend if you want the information. Actually, what I'll do, Becky, is I'll send you the link and you can distribute it if you want.
Great. Thank you. Well, thanks, everyone. Great to see everyone, and we'll send out these links after the meeting, and hope to see you all again soon. And please reach out if you do want to be on an advisory committee. I think a few of you have reached out, so I'll be in touch about that in the next few weeks. Thank you.